I'm Patrick Bossert. The Rubik's Cube is an amazing puzzle. It's the best, I think, the best puzzle ever invented. No other puzzle has come close. Just the simplicity of it, the portability of it, and the very clear sort of finished state. You can't sort of half do it and think, well, I've been successful. It is really a puzzle that you either crack or you don't. I was born in 1968 in the UK. I've always been really, really interested in solving puzzles. Throughout my childhood, any puzzle that came along, I'd try and solve it. I've made a proper career out of solving puzzles. I was away on a skiing holiday when I was 12 years old in Switzerland, and that's just the age where you're really cocky and you go out with far too much bravado. And day one, I fell and broke my hand. I was stuck in a chalet for 2 weeks. It just so happened that the cube hit the market in Switzerland at that time. And a very thoughtful cousin, to whom I dedicated the book in the end, thought to buy one and send it up to the chalet. So I had nearly 2 weeks on my own with nothing to do other than this fiendishly difficult puzzle to solve. When I got back from that holiday and back to school, the cube had just arrived in the UK. So I was really one of the first kids that had worked out how to solve it. And so many people asked me for the solution that I wrote it up on 2 sides of A4 and sold it for 30p a copy at my local school. And that sold like wildfire. I made tons of pocket money. And then I did some deals with other kids in other schools and sort of franchised the selling so that they got 10p out of each 30p. And before long, it was over loads of schools in Surrey. And it was really from that was the spark, that was the genesis of the book. As a 12-year-old, I was taken out on the whole media tour, and they were really good. They gave me a minder who really handled the media very well on my behalf. So for me, it was just a fun adventure. It really didn't feel like pressure, even live TV broadcasts and stuff, which is part of the whole experience. I've been fortuitous to meet Mr. Rubik. He spent most of his life teaching and lecturing in the use of 3D space, and he invented the cube really as a tool to help his students think spatially and understand problem spaces in a different way. So for him, it was just a byproduct of teaching. I don't think he ever meant it to be the phenomenon that it was. But it was just such a good invention that it was almost inevitable that it would take off. The cube is an incredibly difficult puzzle to solve. Once you realise the centerpieces are connected, it does become a lot easier because all you're doing is solving the edge bits. But it has a huge number of combinations, and in the main, the only way of solving it is to apply a very systematic, very logical approach to it. You break the big problem down into lots of smaller stages, which is what I did. So I started by doing one face, then concentrating on solving the 4 corners on the other face, and then moving the remaining bits in between. It wasn't the only way of solving it, but it was the most logical way that I could see to solve it. When I wrote the book, I represented all the moves pictorially. All the latest solutions that came along used codes like L2, R3, whatever. And a lot of people just couldn't get their heads around it. So for people that I was trying to help through the logical stages of solving it, I tried to make it as simple as possible. Speed cubing's the new generation's way of solving the cube. They've taken the solutions that other people have come up with and refined them to a point where they just cannot get any smarter. So whereas I was doing things or solving the cube in sort of 35, sometimes 25 seconds, Speed cubers now are talking 7 seconds, 10 seconds, that sort of range. And looking at what they do, the technique and the amount they have to confine to memory before they even start solving the cube to enable them to solve it that quickly is quite staggering. So I'm in awe of today's speed cubers. I've seen speed cubing competitions where people are solving it blindfolded. So from the outset, they have to remember the whole thing. Solving 4x4 cubes, blindfolded, which is just a staggering feat. And talking of feet, actually, there are other competitions which are about solving cubes using only your feet. Every time a new puzzle came out, they asked whether I'd write a book or a solution to each of those, and I refused on principle, because nothing came close to just the cleverness of the cube as a puzzle. I think the Rubik's Cube has come to symbolise 80s culture because it was so iconic. At the time, it was just a puzzle and a bit of a craze. But it's only looking back on it now that you start to see the cube used on album covers and just as part of retro symbology. It was that big a craze, it was worldwide, that so many people recognise it and really link it to their childhood.